At the turn of the millennium, Harley-Davidson owned the heavyweight cruiser scene. Their V-twins were legends, throaty, iconic, and oozing American muscle. No one questioned the throne until Honda rolled in with something unapologetically aggressive. This wasn't just a cruiser, it was a challenge. It is an 1800cc fuel-injected beast, and it is Honda's biggest V-twin ever. It didn't just go head-to-head with Harley's torque and presence, it left them chasing. The VTX1800 didn't try to imitate, it came to dominate. Bigger numbers, faster sprints, more torque. And while Harley stuck to tradition, Honda brought liquid cooling, fuel injection, and an engine that hit like a freight train but ran with surgical precision. This is the tale of the moment Honda stepped into Harley's ring, kicked down the door, and dared them to respond. If you lived through the era when chrome was currency and every stoplight was a showdown, hit like, smash subscribe, and hold on tight. We're reliving the golden days of V-twin warfare, one torque monster at a time. Why Honda built this engine? To understand why Honda created the VTX1800, you've got to rewind to the late 90s and early 2000s, a time when heavyweight cruisers ruled the roads and Harley-Davidson sat unchallenged on the throne. The Milwaukee icon didn't just sell bikes, they sold identity. Big V-twins, rumbling exhausts, and decades of road-worn heritage made them untouchable. Meanwhile, the Japanese brands were still circling the ring. Yes, Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, and Kawasaki all had cruisers, but none had that unmistakable weight, that low-end grunt, that primal presence Harley riders demanded. So Honda made a decision. No more half measures. They weren't going to copy Harley. They were going to outclass them. Their answer? The VTX1800, a 1,795 cubic centimeter juggernaut, the biggest V-twin to ever hit a production motorcycle at the time. But it wasn't just about size. Honda set out to craft a machine that delivered brute torque and modern sophistication in one package. It had to hit hard right off idle with that satisfying, explosive launch riders live for, but it also had to be smooth, predictable, no rattling teeth, no clunky throttle. This was torque with manners, power that pulled like a freight train but cruised like a luxury car. Reliability was just as critical. The VTX wasn't meant to live in a garage, it was built to run, and run hard. From daily commutes to cross-country trips, this engine needed to light up with one push, keep its cool under pressure, and outlast expectations. And where Harley leaned on air-cooled nostalgia, Honda brought innovation. Liquid cooling, fuel injection, precision machining. It wasn't just a big twin, it was a technical flex. Honda didn't want to chase Harley. They wanted to shake their foundation. The VTX1800 was more than just an answer. It was a warning shot, a message to the entire industry that said, we're done following, now we lead. The birth of a beast. What most riders don't realize is that this engine wasn't simply assembled, it was obsessively crafted. Over 5 years of development, millions poured into R&D, and a global team of engineers came together to build more than just a cruiser engine. They built a statement. The project began quietly in the mid to late 90s within the walls of Honda's R&D centers. Internally, it was called V-Twin Extreme, a name that reflected just how serious the mission was. Eventually, that would be shortened to 3 bold letters, VTX. Honda wasn't just after displacement, they were chasing legacy. The goal was uncompromising: create the largest, most torque-heavy V-twin cruiser engine on the planet. But it had to be more than muscle. It had to be smooth, bulletproof, and unmistakably Honda. At the helm was Hajime Nakaaki, a seasoned engine expert with a reputation for building performance without compromise. He didn't just want high numbers, he wanted harmony, precision, power that felt deliberate and usable. To get there, Honda tapped both its Japanese engineering base and its American R&D arm in Torrance, California. This was more than a technical effort, it was a cultural bridge. The team immersed themselves in American cruiser culture, studied Harley's dominance, and dissected what US riders really wanted from a V-twin, then set out to deliver more. Prototypes were tested relentlessly. Early versions were mounted on modified Valkyrie frames to fine-tune performance. Engines were run in the brutal Arizona heat, then cold started in the icy Canadian Rockies. Thermal management, fuel delivery, torque mapping, everything was scrutinized. Nothing was left to chance. When the VTX1800 finally emerged in 2001 and hit full production in 2002, it wasn't just another bike. It was a category killer. With 120 foot-pounds of torque, it instantly became the most powerful V-twin cruiser engine in production. This wasn't Honda playing catch-up. This was Honda bursting through the wall and declaring, "We're not just showing up, we're here to take over." VTX 1800 engine breakdown. This is where the VTX 1800 truly made its mark. not just in raw stats, but in the way it was engineered, tuned, and felt on the road. Let's break down why this engine became legendary. At its core was a 1795cc V-twin, Honda's largest production motorcycle engine ever. But it wasn't just about going big, it was about building smart. With a 52-degree V-twin layout, it balanced dominating size with bold presence. That angle offered more than just aesthetics. It gave the engine better cooling, improved balance, and smoother power pulses than the traditional 45-degree twins used by Harley. And while most cruisers at the time stuck to air cooling, Honda took a different path: liquid cooling. This wasn't just about squeezing out more performance, it was about consistency, better heat control, longer life, and reliable power no matter the conditions. Then there was the single-pin crankshaft, a choice straight from Harley's playbook. Honda didn't need it for performance. They wanted the rumble, that classic American heartbeat, but refined, contained, controlled chaos instead of mechanical mayhem. Officially, the VTX1800 produced 106 horsepower at 5,000 RPM, solid numbers. But torque? That's where it got serious. It delivered a massive 120 foot-pounds of torque at just 3,000 RPM. No waiting, no buildup. You twisted the throttle and it responded instantly. It was built for that punch-in-the-gut launch, not high-rev thrills, but low-end domination. In practice, it felt like you were riding a freight train. Smooth, relentless, effortless power, no matter the gear. Honda didn't just chase power, they engineered for practicality. Instead of a chain or belt, they used a shaft drive. Clean, quiet, nearly maintenance-free. Perfect for riders who put down serious miles. They also used dual spark plugs per cylinder, boosting combustion efficiency and helping meet tightening emission standards. The camshafts were gear-driven, delivering precise valve timing and cutting down on mechanical slop. And despite all that displacement, the engine never felt punishing. Internal counterbalancers and rubber-mounted engine points smoothed out the ride. You still got the rumble, just not the rattle. The VTX1800 wasn't built to be loud on paper. It was built to be felt in the saddle. Every component was tuned for real-world performance, real-world reliability, and real-world soul. It wasn't just Honda showing off specs, it was Honda delivering a cruiser masterpiece. If you were around in the early 2000s, you remember the buzz, the sound of chrome battles echoing down Main Street, Harley riders nodding in approval or disbelief as the VTX rolled up beside them. If this takes you back to the golden days of big cruisers and friendly rivalries at the local bike night, hit that like button and subscribe. Because next, we're diving into one of the most unexpected matchups in motorcycle history. Honda versus Harley, head-to-head. The rivalry with Harley. When Honda introduced the VTX1800, it wasn't merely launching a new cruiser, it was issuing a direct challenge to Harley-Davidson's dominance. At the time, Harley's flagship engines, the 88 twin cam and later the 96 twin cam, were revered for their air-cooled, torque-rich performance and iconic American heritage. The 88 twin cam produced approximately 86 foot-pounds of torque, while the 96 delivered around 92. In contrast, Honda's VTX1800 boasted a staggering 120 foot-pounds of torque straight from the factory, setting a new benchmark in the cruiser segment. Beyond the impressive torque figures, the VTX1800 distinguished itself with its immediate power delivery. Riders experienced a seamless surge of acceleration from low RPMs, reminiscent of muscle car performance. This contrasted with Harley's traditional power curve, which built up more gradually. Honda's approach combined modern engineering with cruiser aesthetics. The VTX1800 featured liquid cooling, fuel injection, and precise engineering tolerances, offering a refined riding experience. While Harley emphasized its storied legacy and mechanical character, Honda presented a cruiser that was both powerful and technologically advanced. The VTX's ride quality further set it apart. Despite its massive engine, the bike offered a smooth and stable ride thanks to its shaft drive, counterbalancers, and rubber-mounted components. This contrasted with the more pronounced vibrations often associated with Harley's big twins. The introduction of the VTX1800 sparked varied reactions within the motorcycle community. Some Harley enthusiasts viewed it as an unwelcome outsider, while others were intrigued by its performance and refinement. Over time, the VTX1800 carved out its own niche, demonstrating that a cruiser could evolve beyond traditional boundaries without losing its soul. In essence, the VTX1800 didn't aim to replicate Harley-Davidson's formula, it sought to redefine it. By blending raw power with modern engineering, Honda delivered a cruiser that challenged conventions and expanded the possibilities of what a V-twin motorcycle could be. Reception and legacy. When the VTX1800 thundered onto the streets, it didn't sneak in, you saw it, you heard it, and you definitely felt it. But how did the world react? And more importantly, how is it remembered today? From the jump, the press took notice. Cycle World dubbed it a torque monster wrapped in Honda refinement. Motorcyclists? They said it was almost over-engineered, if that's even possible. Reviewers couldn't believe how Honda packed this much muscle into a package that still felt elegant. Powerful, yes, but also smooth, clean, composed. One review called it a muscle bike in a tuxedo. Riders were just as vocal. What won them over? The engine, every time. That deep reservoir of torque, the smooth throttle response, that feeling of always having more power in reserve, right there whenever you needed it. But it wasn't all roses. The VTX1800 was big, nearly 800 pounds wet, and you felt that weight in slow corners or tight U-turns. It wasn't flickable. It was a brute, a refined one, but a brute all the same. Still, most riders didn't blame the engine. If anything, they thought the motor deserved more, something leaner, something meaner. That thinking sparked a new chapter. The VTX engine started showing up in custom builds, choppers, bobbers, even performance oddballs. It became a favorite among builders who wanted muscle, reliability, and attitude in one bulletproof package. And that engine? It held up. 2 decades on, original VTX1800 motors are still running strong. No drama, no widespread failures, just oil changes, valve checks, and miles of road behind them. Collectors have taken notice, forums stay active, and YouTube's full of builds proving the legend hasn't faded. It's evolved. What started as a shot at Harley's crown turned into something more. A mechanical icon with a reputation built not just on torque, but on trust. Some motorcycles turn heads with speed, others with sheer volume. But the VTX 1800 did something deeper. It built a tribe. To this day, VTX riders are still showing up in force. They're wrenching in garages, swapping stories at meetups, and keeping the spirit alive in online forums like VTX OA. These aren't just owners, they're lifers. You'll see bikes with 6-digit odometers still running strong, still stock, still bulletproof. This isn't a machine people casually sell off, it's one they hand down, like a mechanical heirloom. Why the loyalty? Because this engine didn't just deliver torque, it delivered memories. Long-haul iron butt rides, weekend builds turned into lifelong projects, friendships forged over spark plugs and chrome polish. The VTX 1800 didn't just roar, it resonated. And what it built is more than a following. It's a brotherhood on 2 wheels, one that's still rolling strong. Why it was discontinued. Despite all its muscle, refinement, and cult following, the VTX 1800 didn't stick around forever. Less than a decade after launch, Honda pulled the plug. So, what happened? The short answer, emissions. By the late 2000s, environmental standards, especially in Europe and North America, were tightening fast. The VTX 1800, while advanced for its era, wasn't built with future emissions in mind. Its large displacement and fuel system couldn't meet evolving Euro 4 and California Air Resources Board regulations. Making it compliant would have meant redesigning the engine from the ground up, an expensive ask for a model that was never a sales juggernaut. Then, there was the issue of weight. Cruiser buyers were evolving. Many wanted lighter, more agile bikes, or were switching lanes entirely into adventure and sport touring. Suddenly, 800 pounds of raw torque felt excessive. It was a heavyweight in a market leaning toward balance and versatility. Honda also faced internal competition. The VTX 1300 offered similar styling with better accessibility. Meanwhile, the Fury, Shadow Phantom, and other cruisers filled in the gaps. The 1800 became a niche machine, powerful but overshadowed in Honda's own showroom. And finally, the cultural tide had shifted. The early 2000s were the peak of big-bore cruisers. By the 2010s, the thrill of pure displacement gave way to demand for tech, efficiency, and adaptability. Riders wanted traction control, ride modes, better fuel economy, not just brute force. The VTX 1800 wasn't a failure. It was just a beast built for a time that didn't last. In 2008, production quietly ended. No farewell model, no press release, just the silent close of one of Honda's boldest engineering chapters. But like all great machines, it didn't vanish. It lives on highways, in forums, in garages, and in stories told over coffee and chrome. Because bikes like the VTX 1800 don't fade. They evolve into legends. Honda's loudest, boldest cruiser ever. The VTX 1800 didn't start a revolution. It didn't dethrone Harley, and it didn't become the future of motorcycling. But that was never the point. What it did do, loudly, proudly, was make a statement. If you wanted the biggest, meanest, most reliable cruiser engine on the market, you didn't have to buy American. Honda's VTX 1800 was a one-time flex. A moment where engineering ambition met market competition and produced something unforgettable. It wasn't built to cater. It wasn't built to copy. It was built to prove a point, that Japanese precision could match American muscle and maybe even outdo it. No other Honda cruiser since has matched its sheer displacement or torque. The Fury, the CTX, even the Goldwing, they all moved in different directions. Lighter, smarter, quieter. None of them chased the thunder of the VTX1800. Today, there are few bikes that carry its DNA. The Rebel 1100, with its DCT tech and lightweight frame, is a new kind of performance cruiser. But it's not the VTX. The VTX1800 was about rawness, simplicity paired with size, engineering without apology. And that's why it's still respected. 20 years later, VTX owners still gather. They still ride. They still wrench. The engine runs, the torque pulls, and the legend grows. Because bikes like the VTX1800 aren't just motorcycles, they're milestones. Honda never tried to build another engine like it, and maybe that's what makes it special. It came, it conquered, and it left before the world could catch up. If you've ever ridden a VTX, worked on one, or just admired it from afar, drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your story. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell, because more forgotten legends are coming soon. Thanks for watching.